June 14th, 1944. Normandy, just south of Bayeux. Morning mist clings to the hedgerows as a Kugelwagen grinds to a halt on a narrow farm track. Somewhere to the west, artillery thumps, dull, patient, relentless. The sound never quite stops now. An Oberleutnant of the Panzer Grenadiers steps down first. He is mud-splattered, eyes hollowed by 3 nights without sleep. Behind him, senior officers emerge, maps tucked under arms, binoculars hanging uselessly against their chests. Among them is General der Infanterie Günther Blumentritt, Chief of Staff to Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, the highest-ranking operational mind in the West. The air smells wrong. Not cordite or burning oil, but gasoline. A lot of it beyond the hedgerow. The field opens up, and what lies there freezes the men in place. Rows upon rows of jerry cans, stacked with geometric precision. Crates of artillery shells marked in English. Tarpaulin-covered trucks, hundreds of them. Some still warm, abandoned in haste. Bulldozed dirt roads cut through the grass like veins, feeding into something far larger than a simple forward supply point. This is not a battlefield capture. This is an industrial landscape. The Oberleutnant clears his throat. Herr General, this is only one depot. Blumentritt does not respond immediately. He steps forward, boots crunching on gravel laid down by American engineers less than 48 hours earlier. A torn packing slip flutters against his leg. He bends, picks it up. Neat typeface. Unit numbers, tonnage figures, fuel, ammunition, rations, spare parts, enough to sustain an entire army, perhaps several, for weeks. You can hear the war in Blumentritt's breathing, slow, controlled, but heavier now. For 4 years, German operational doctrine has assumed one truth above all others, that wars are decided by maneuver, by will, by the destruction of the enemy's fighting spirit. Logistics mattered, yes, but always in service of the battlefield decision. The enemy was expected to falter, to break, to run out. But standing here, in a Norman field, humming faintly with idling generators left behind in the American rush inland, that belief begins to rot. This is not improvisation. This is system. Blumentritt straightens and surveys the horizon. In every direction, the countryside bears the same marks. Crushed fences, widened lanes, signposts in English pointing toward beaches whose code names, Omaha, Gold, Utah, are already burned into German memory. Somewhere beyond the rolling ground, more depots like this one exist, not hidden, not guarded heavily, simply there, because the Americans can afford it. A staff officer approaches, notebook in hand. General, aerial reconnaissance confirms similar installations along the Veer and toward Isigny. Fuel throughput is estimated at... Blumentritt raises a hand. He doesn't need the number. He has spent the past week reading reports from shattered divisions. Panzerlehr bleeding itself white against endless fighter-bombers. Infantry units attacking only to halt for lack of fuel. Then watching American columns roll forward unimpeded. Everywhere the same refrain. They do not stop. At La Roche-Guyon, Rundstedt's headquarters is tense, brittle. Rommel rages about the air. Hitler issues orders from faraway East Prussia, demanding counterattacks that exist only on paper. And beneath it all runs a quieter truth. One few dare to speak aloud. The enemy's logistical tale is infinite. Blumentritt walks deeper into the depot. He lifts the lid of a crate. Inside, brand new artillery shells, their brass gleaming. Another crate, boots, still smelling of fresh leather. Another, medical supplies, morphine syringes packed with care. The Americans have not come merely to fight. They have come to stay. A German sergeant nearby mutters, almost to himself, "They have more trucks than we have rifles." No one corrects him. Blumentritt thinks back to the early days of the war, to 1940. To the rush through the Ardennes, when German columns lived off speed and daring. Then, logistics followed just closely enough. Now the roles are reversed. The Americans advance not because they are faster, but because behind every mile gained lies 10 miles of supply. Mathematics begins to intrude where ideology once ruled. How many shells can Germany fire per day in the West? How many can the Americans? How many tanks can be replaced? How many trucks destroyed? And how many more appear the next morning? This depot, captured almost by accident as German units probe for weak points, answers those questions more clearly than any intelligence summary. Blumentritt folds the packing slip and places it carefully in his map case. This is not defeat in the dramatic sense, no white flags, no broken lines, but it is something colder, more final. It is the realization that no operational brilliance can outrun arithmetic. As the distant guns continue their steady thunder, Blumentritt turns back toward the waiting vehicles. There will be reports to write, briefings to give, optimism to perform, but something has shifted. The war in the West is no longer a contest of tactics. It is a contest of capacity, and standing amid the silent abundance of American supply, Günther Blumentritt has just glimpsed its ending. June 15th, 1944, La Roche-Guyon, headquarters of Army Group B. The chateau's stone corridors echo with hurried footsteps and clipped voices. Maps cover every available wall. Normandy reduced to colored pins and grease pencil arrows that no longer match reality. General Günther Blumentritt stands before one such map, hands clasped behind his back. Overnight, the Allied beachhead has expanded again. Not dramatically, not boldly, just steadily. A few kilometers here, a bridge secured there. Each movement small enough to seem containable. Together, unstoppable. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt sits nearby, heavy-lidded, staring at a sheaf of reports. He has been awake most of the night. So has everyone else. Panzerlehr reports another fuel shortfall. Rundstedt says, without looking up, they halted an attack at noon yesterday. Could not advance. Could not withdraw. Blumentritt nods. The Americans did not. Rundstedt finally looks up. No! Blumentritt opens his map case and removes the folded packing slip from the captured depot. He smooths it out on the table. The paper is mundane. That is what makes it terrifying. This, Blumentritt says quietly, was found 20 kilometers from the beaches. One depot, a forward one. Several officers lean in. Someone whistles under his breath. Rundstedt's mouth tightens. How much? Blumentritt names the figure. No embellishment. No commentary. Silence. In that silence, the war changes shape, not in gunfire or explosions, but in the minds of men trained to think in divisions and days of supply. They begin, unwillingly, to calculate. Every German counterattack since June 6th has followed the same pattern. Initial movement, contact, air attack, fuel consumption, ammunition depletion, halt. Then withdrawal, if withdrawal is still possible. Every American movement follows another pattern. Advance. Pause. Build roads. Lay pipelines. Stack depots. Advance again. Blumentritt points to the map. They are not racing us. They are building something behind the front. Rommel had warned them of this, insisted that the invasion must be smashed at the beaches, or not at all. Now Rommel is at the front, watching his predictions come true. While Hitler issues orders from the Wolf's Lair that assume German divisions still move like they did in 1940. A telephone rings. An aide answers, listens, pales slightly, another bridgehead across the Vire. He reports, engineers established it under air cover. Supplies already moving. Blumentritt exhales slowly. Later that afternoon, he dictates a memorandum. His tone is professional, careful. Every word weighed. The enemy's logistical superiority, he says, permits sustained offensive action independent of tactical setbacks. Losses are replaced faster than they are inflicted. He pauses, then adds something unusual for a German staff document. This creates a situation in which continued resistance becomes a matter not of maneuver, but of time, and time favors the enemy exclusively. When the aide finishes typing, Blumentritt does not immediately sign. He stares at the page, aware that this assessment will never reach Hitler unchanged, if it reaches him at all. That evening, Blumentritt walks the chateau grounds. The sky is low, heavy with cloud. somewhere beyond the hills. American artillery fires by the thousand. Shells lifted from crates like the ones he saw yesterday, loaded by soldiers who know another crate waits behind them. You imagine it now. The beaches at night. Liberty ships silhouetted against the channel. Cranes swinging. Trucks rolling ashore without pause. No panic. No desperation. Just procedure. Germany no longer has procedure. It has improvisation. Blumentritt thinks of the Eastern Front, where entire armies have vanished into the steppe. Of Italy, where German divisions fight uphill with dwindling resources. And now here, in France, once thought secure. The realization is not emotional. It is analytical. Even if every German soldier fights perfectly, even if every counterattack gains ground, even if miracles occur, the material equation does not change. Germany cannot replace what it loses. The enemy can. The next morning, Blumentritt meets Rundstedt privately. "Excellency," he says carefully, "we must consider the strategic picture. Rundstedt looks older than his years. I have considered it. There may come a point," Blumentritt continues, "where further sacrifice achieves nothing militarily." Rundstedt gives a thin smile. "You are saying the war is lost." Blumentritt does not correct him. "I am saying," he replies, "that it is already decided, just not yet concluded." Outside, engines rumble. Another column moves west. German this time. Shorter, thinner, running on fumes. Blumentritt watches it go, knowing it will meet an enemy whose strength lies not just in men and machines, but in the endless, quiet certainty of supply. And once you see that certainty up close, once you stand among the crates and fuel drums and realize they stretch beyond the horizon, you cannot unsee it. June 18th, 1944. Near St. Lo, rain turns the Norman lanes into rivers of mud. But the American trucks keep coming. From a low rise overlooking a battered crossroads, General Günther Blumentritt watches through binoculars as the convoy passes. 6x6s. Fuel tankers, ambulances, bulldozers. Military police wave them through with bored efficiency. No urgency, no hesitation. The column stretches beyond the curve of the road. A mechanical serpent feeding the front. A German artillery officer beside him shakes his head. They move supplies as if under peacetime conditions. Blumentritt lowers the binoculars. "Because for them," he says, "this is planning fulfilled. The German line here is thin. Units hold villages with names that mean nothing now. Names that will soon be reduced to coordinates in after-action reports. Every shell fired is counted. Every liter of fuel argued over. When a Panther tank moves, someone, somewhere, has already decided which other vehicle will not." Across the hedgerows, the Americans fight a different war entirely. Blumentritt is escorted forward by a small security detail. The front is fluid, confused. In places, German troops stumble into abandoned American positions, only to realize they are not abandoned at all, merely rotated. Fresh units slide in, fed by roads that seem to appear overnight. He recalls the depot again. The scale of it, the indifference with which it was guarded. The Americans do not fear losing a dump because another will replace it tomorrow. At a captured farmhouse, Blumentritt pauses. Inside, chalk markings cover the walls. Unit designations, times, arrows pointing west. The handwriting is neat, almost casual. A German lieutenant picks up a discarded American field manual. He flips through it, frowning. "Their logistics doctrine," he says. "It assumes abundance." Blumentritt nods. "And abundance," he replies, "is now a weapon." That afternoon, Allied fighter bombers appear overhead, silver shapes against the clouds. German vehicles scatter for cover. The Americans do not bother to strafe the convoy Blumentritt observed earlier. It has already passed, already delivered its load. The air power moves on, hunting targets that matter. A message arrives from Rommel's headquarters. Rommel has been wounded in a strafing attack. Command is shaken again. Another pillar removed. Blumentritt folds the message slowly. Rommel had understood this war better than most. That the front was no longer a line of men, but a system of supply. With Rommel gone, The last voice insisting on realism is silenced. That night, Blumentritt sits in a requisitioned room. Candle flickering, he writes in his private notes, never intended for official eyes. The enemy's rear area is not a vulnerability. He writes, it is their greatest strength. We fight their front. We should be fighting their factories, but we cannot reach them. He thinks of the American homeland, untouched, producing trucks and tanks and ammunition without interruption. Germany's cities burn nightly. Rail lines fracture. Fuel becomes myth. This is not a contest that can be won by courage. It is won by throughput. Days pass. The Allies grind forward through the bocage. Losses mount on both sides. German units fight with skill, sometimes brilliance. Villages change hands. Counterattacks inflict damage. But the arithmetic never shifts. Each American loss is a problem. Each German loss is a reduction. Blumentritt visits another captured supply area, smaller this time, but still staggering. Engineers already repair the road leading to it. Even as shells fall nearby, a young German officer whispers, "If we had this, even once," Blumentritt answers quietly, "if we had this, the war would already be over. In our favor." He does not say which war, or when. By early July, the Allied breakout looms. Blumentritt knows it before the maps show it. The signs are in the flow, the tempo increasing, the pauses shortening. The Americans are no longer consolidating. They are preparing to release something held back. He stands one last time near a road choked with American traffic, hidden in a copse of trees. The engines hum like an approaching storm. This is the sound of inevitability. And for Günther Blumentritt, the war is no longer a question of if Germany will lose, but how much of Europe will be destroyed before its leaders accept what the logistics have already decided. July 20th, 1944, near La Roche-Guyon. The summer heat hangs heavy over the Seine Valley. Cicadas buzz in the trees, indifferent to the war tightening its grip on France. Inside the chateau, radios crackle with fragmented reports from Normandy. Panzer divisions in retreat. Infantry units reduced to Kampfgruppen. American armor breaking into open country at last. General Günther Blumentritt sits at a desk cluttered with maps that are now more red than blue. He removes his spectacles and rubs his eyes. Outside, the distant rumble of artillery has become a constant, no longer alarming. Simply present. A staff officer enters hurriedly. Herr General, news from Berlin. Blumentritt looks up. He already knows it will be bad. There has been an attempt on the Führer's life, the officer says. An explosion at the wolf's lair. For a moment, there is silence. Not shock. Something stranger. Calculation. Is he dead? Blumentritt asks. No. Injured. He survived. Blumentritt nods slowly. The war continues. Then, of course it does. As the officer leaves, Blumentritt leans back in his chair. The failed assassination will change everything and nothing. Purges will follow. Loyalty tests. Strategic reality will retreat even further from the Führer's grasp. And still, the American supply columns will keep moving. Later that day, Blumentritt confers with Rundstedt, who has just been dismissed from command, another general sacrificed to illusion. What do you think now? Rundstedt asks quietly. No aides present. No pretense left. Blumentritt chooses his words with care. I think, he says, that even if the war ended today, Germany has already lost the future. Rundstedt gives a tired nod. The Americans? He asks. They will not stop at Paris. Blumentritt replies. They will go to the Rhine, and beyond, if required, they can afford to. That evening, Blumentritt walks alone along the riverbank. The sky glows faintly to the north, reflected fires from the front. He thinks back to the depot in Normandy. To the first moment, the truth became unavoidable. It was never the tanks or the planes. It was the silence of shortage, the absence of panic in the enemy's rear. In later years, Blumentritt will speak of this moment. He will describe it plainly, without bitterness. When I saw the American supply dumps, he will say, I knew the war was lost. Not morally, not tactically, But mathematically, now, in July 1944, that thought remains unspoken. Dangerous, treasonous, even, yet it governs every decision he makes. German forces continue to fight. They will fight in the Falaise Pocket, in Paris, in the Ardennes. They will inflict casualties and earn respect even from their enemies. But the outcome will not change. The war has become a process, grinding toward an end already visible to those willing to look behind the front lines. Blumentritt stops and listens. Far away, engines hum, steady, confident, unhurried. The sound of supply, the sound of victory.